defending the free market, and making the moral case for capitalism. The Justin Moore Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Justin Moore Show, where we make sense of what's going on in this crazy, insane, out of control world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a crazy, insane, out of control world. I mean, I'm just looking at headlines and stuff that's been going on. Rand Paul, he's out mowing his lawn in Kentucky. Okay, we got snow on the ground here in Montana, so there are no lawns to be mowed. But in Kentucky, Rand Paul minding his own business, mowing his lawn. Apparently his neighbor comes over, beats the hell out of him. Rand Paul's got like 6 broken ribs. He's in horrible condition. I mean, this is like, Rand Paul is in serious medical conditions right now. And we don't know why. We're thinking it's probably political because his neighbor is a liberal. And then you have, there was the recent election in Virginia, and one of the voters, I saw this headline. This guy was convicted of a DUI. He showed up a day before for the voting. Usually, a lot of people who go and vote, typically one of your polling places is like an elementary school or a high school or whatever. Well, this guy shows up at an elementary school. He's drunk, and he just realized, oh, he's a day early. Whoops. So, I mean, there's just all this crazy stuff going on. You hear person after person now. It's like a daily occurrence about celebrities in Hollywood with sexual allegations, Harvey Weinstein thing, and Charlie Sheen. There was allegations of him having sex with someone who was 13 years old at the time, back in when Charlie Sheen was 19 years old. It's just one thing after another. But you know what I really get from all of this is that, like, so many people thought before all this started coming out with Hollywood, like Hollywood, oh yeah, we can never touch those stars. Those guys are always going to be seen as gods. But this shows you how quickly things can fall apart. You think something is so strong, and here it is collapsing before our very eyes. And these same people, they say the same thing about the U.S. economy. That, nope, the dollar can never collapse. Are you crazy? The dollar is strong. We are the world's reserve currency. We ain't gonna have a collapse here, Justin. You're crazy. Well, look at all these other examples in life. And when you think things are so strong and how they just fall apart like this. I mean, it's insane. So, it's always better to prepare yourself, isn't it? I mean, at least if we're wrong, hey, at least owning some gold and silver, that's never a bad idea. Having some food storage, never a bad idea. Don't we have, disasters that occur? Hurricanes, tornadoes, crazy snowstorms where you can't get out of your house for days. Having food storage is a no-brainer, regardless if there's a collapse or not. So, I mean, anyway, guys, welcome to the Justin Moore Show. In the recent news here, we have Donald Trump. Just this last week, he announced the new Fed chair who will succeed Janet Yellen. And his name is Jerome Powell, known as Jay. And I guess, looking at this guy as the Fed pick, and this guy really does seem status quo. He's been part of the board of governors since 2012. He was appointed by Obama. And just looking at an article here I saw from Seeking Alpha, they pointed out, hey, look, this guy in all 44 meetings that he's attended, he has never dissented from the Fed chairman's decision. So this guy has been going along with the QE, going along with, recently under Yellen, raising interest rates slowly, shrinking the balance sheet. This guy really is. He's status quo. There's nothing new to be seen with this guy. There's nothing about draining the swamp with President Donald Trump, appointing Jerome Powell. He's a guy who's, he is slightly different in that he's not an economist like all the other Fed chairmen are, chairwoman. He's a former lawyer. And so this guy, so that's a slightly different thing. So maybe he can look at things from a more wonkish policy aspect. But, I guess the benefits of having an economist as the head of the Fed, that's obviously showing that doesn't really matter at all. I mean, if you understand Keynesian economics, you're way worse off. It's better to not know anything, and you might stumble upon something that's right. the Keynesians stumble upon everything that's exactly the opposite of what we should be doing. Oh yeah, we just need to have more demand in the economy. Yep, that's what we need. Yeah, we need to have interest rates near zero for 8-9 years. Yeah, that will be good for the economy because we don't want it to fall back into a slump. Huh. Well, they don't seem to consider, especially from the Austrian perspective, that when you have interest rates at zero for that long a period of time, that distorts the structure of production. Entrepreneurs out there looking at, okay, it looks like, based on low interest rates, they might engage in building some factories or whatever it is, growing their business based on these low interest rates. But there's a lot of people building businesses that are only sustainable because of these low interest rates. When interest rates go up, that's going to cause the next recession. And with the Fed slowly tightening, slowly raising interest rates, and now they're shrinking the balance sheet very slowly, $10 billion a month for the first 3 months here, then they'll go to $20 billion. That, as I said, was that last week's, no, 2 weeks ago on the show, 2 episodes ago, that with Janet Yellen and what she's been doing, it's the pin moving closer and closer to popping the bubble. And that's what we're doing. That's how all these recessions come about, is when the Fed starts to strengthen, which, don't get me wrong, that is the right thing to do. We need to get rid of all this massive misallocation of resources in the economy, because all these people engaging in the wrong thing don't realize they're doing the wrong thing until we have a recession. Then we can start fresh, and we can actually have people building things that people actually want. So that's right now. It's these government-favored businesses are growing at the expense of us out there. Us people. You guys listening to this show. You guys are wanting to create businesses, and maybe it's been hard for you. Well, it's because, look, you're trying to fight with government-sponsored businesses, businesses that are seen, green or whatever it is. The government is distorting how resources are being allocated in this economy, and so a correction is definitely what we need. Recessions are good; they're beneficial. Especially with this fiat currency we have floating around, and all this government meddling. So anyway, what I find with the new Fed chair, soon to be Jerome Powell. Well, I mean, he still has to be approved by the Senate, but it looks like that'll happen. I found an interesting. I just want to read, just kind of give you an idea from someone else's perspective. This is just a few sentences from seekingalpha.com. It says, Jeremy Stein, an economist at Harvard University and who served as a Federal Reserve governor with Mr. Powell, describes the future nominee as remarkably undogmatic. Mr. Stein goes on, he listens more than he talks. Mr. Powell is given high marks for being a serious student who studies hard in areas that he is not an expert in and seeks advice. He works well with people and makes things happen in his quiet way. Much of what he has accomplished has been out of the spotlight without a great deal of fanfare. Okay, from what I read right there, I mean, he seems like a fantastic guy. A guy who's not all about seeking power, trying to promote himself like most people in Washington are, or just most people out there, all about promoting themselves. It gets kind of annoying after a while. But here's this guy, look, he's known as not dogmatic. So really, from that aspect, he's very much like President Trump. Trump is not an ideologue. I mean, what I've noticed with Trump, he's a good listener. He knows that he doesn't know everything. Well, his persona he lets off in public says that he knows everything. But when he's in meetings, he's not acting like that. I would guarantee you that. He's listening to all of his advisors. Okay. And then once he thinks he understands the full picture, then that's when President Trump makes his decision. And then at that point, he's dogmatic. He's like, no, this is what we need to do. So you have to respect Trump in that aspect. He's a leader. There's no question about it. So here's this guy, Jerome Powell. He's not very dogmatic. Yeah, he is a more Republican-leaning sort of guy. But he's willing to listen to other people. He seems like he's not an arrogant guy, which you don't want an arrogant person at the head of the Fed. But really, at the end of the day, this guy, to me, he seems like he's going to be right in the middle between Federal Reserve Chairman Bernanke and in the middle of Yellen. During Bernanke's time at the Fed, his tenure, he never raised interest rates. Yellen has. It seems like this guy, if I were to guess, it looks like Jerome Powell he'll continue on with where Yellen left off. He might raise interest rates maybe a time or two, and then if things start to seem like, oh crap, maybe the economy's not as strong as I thought it was, okay, let's kick back. Let's not reduce their balance sheet anymore. So then I think he'll probably second half of his term, he'll morph into more of a Bernanke type, where he's not going to be raising interest rates. He's going to introduce a QE program, some more money printing. So I think he's really kind of a hybrid of the two. And I think just looking at how the end of this year is going to end with Fed Chair Janet Yellen right before she leaves office in February, I think the Fed will raise interest rates one more time in December. I think that's very much on the table, and it's going to happen. And just because, look at guys, a few weeks ago when I just went all in talking about and trying to understand what's in the mind of Janet Yellen. Look, she has a legacy to defend here. You look at her, she's really been seen as kind of a hawk her whole time at the Fed. And I don't really want to rehash everything I've talked about in a whole episode that I dedicated to this. But basically, look, Janet Yellen, yes, she's raised interest rates 4 times in the last few years. She's seen as, look, she's like the responsible one. She just did at Jackson Hole. Everyone thought she was going to talk about monetary policy. She never talked about monetary policy one time, but she did talk about regulations. And the point I made at the time is, look, this is the reason why she's doing this. She's doing this because she's setting up her own narrative that it's going to be deregulation that causes the next crisis. And so she's seen as responsible with raising interest rates, doing all the right things. No, she doesn't want to print any more money. Look at, she's trying to shrink the balance sheet, which she just started to do in October. And now November, December, January. So it's only going to be a few months of actually shrinking the balance sheet a little bit, $10 billion a month out of $4 trillion, which is nothing. So it's really not going to amount to anything. But it's just the idea that that's what she's doing. She's moving in that direction. And then, look, if she can try to tighten one more time before she leaves, that's just showing that, look, Janet Yellen, she was serious about raising interest rates. She wanted to do what's right for the economy. But no, it's when Jerome Powell steps in and Donald Trump, those guys, it's all going to come collapsing under them. Because Janet Yellen no longer has any pressure on her at all. She raises interest rates in December. Okay, you raise it one more time, a quarter point, no big deal. She's out the first week in February. So she just has to survive for another month and a half, basically. So I definitely think that the Fed will raise interest rates in December. So that'll be a total of 3 times for this year in 2017. Now, what I found was interesting here, we like to talk about how, who really owns all of our national debt. As a country, we're $20 trillion in debt. Well, of that $20 trillion, 5.5 trillion of that is intergovernment loans. I mean, the other governments own it or other entities. And if you guys were to guess, who is the biggest owner of our debt? Well, most people out there will say, it's China. Duh, China owns us. Actually, there's someone ahead of China. Well, actually, quite a lot. It's the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve owns $2.5 trillion of our national debt in terms of treasuries. And then China comes in second place at 1.2 trillion. So the Federal Reserve owns more than double than what China owns. And then we have Japan, which is really close to China. They own $1.1 trillion in our treasuries. And then in fourth place comes Ireland at $307 billion. So that's an important numbers to get out to people. How everyone wants to talk about China, China, China. Trump likes to talk about China. Yeah, China owns us. China's manipulating their currency. Well, the Federal Reserve is the largest owner of our debt, owning treasuries. And actually, if you just were to add up what the Fed owns, what China owns, and what Japan owns in U.S. treasuries, that comes out to owning 33% of our national debt. Now, how sick is that? 33% of our $20 trillion in debt, owned by 3 entities, 2 governments and the Federal Reserve, which is a quasi-private government entity. Ooh, well, there's not really much of a private aspect to it. We just can't really audit them, which really sucks. So knowing and understanding that, putting that in perspective, how the Federal Reserve owns more than any other country out there in terms of our debt, that's how you can help, in some small part, pull people over or at least expose them and plant seeds from the libertarian point of view. That, look, everyone wants to talk about all these other countries and our imports, exports, trade deficits. Well, I guess most people you talk to, they don't give a crap about any of that stuff. They don't know anything about the trade deficits. But like Ron Paul wrote the book End the Fed. Look, populist sort of ideas like that, ending the Fed, this is where we can try to, that is such a great way you can plant those seeds. Look, the Federal Reserve, they're the ones who own us. It's not China. The Federal Reserve. Here Trump has appointed Jerome Powell. He's not a guy who's going to drain the swamp. He is more the same. He's status quo. We're just going to continue down the path to Venezuela. That's exactly where we've been heading for years. Venezuela, that crisis over there keeps getting worse and worse and worse. One of my new episodes here, I'll have to update you. I've done probably 3-4 episodes updating you on the crisis in Venezuela, going back a few years now. And actually, I think maybe next week's show, I'll kind of talk about the Republicans' tax plan and what's going on there. Because on this episode, I just want to keep this one short. Man, last week, I didn't expect to go 50 minutes, but I did. So I want to keep this one shorter. I'm still behind on the episodes. I'm trying to catch back up here. Just gonna start combining corn here. So anyway, guys, we have our work cut out for us. And you know what? Let me just end with saying one more thing here. When I was on the Contra Cruise, there's this one guy. We switch and we have dinner with different people that are part of the group every night, which is I love that aspect of it. Just a chance to get to meet new people. One of the guys I was talking to, I think this was my last dinner. It's the last night of the cruise. This guy's going off like he was a huge Trump supporter. He's defending Trump. But I wasn't really disagreeing with him. He's saying basically, give Trump a chance. And he's pointing out how, libertarians want to point out how Trump is saying this and this and this, and that we shouldn't even give him a chance. And I can't exactly remember all of his talking points. But this guy, he's just going off, and he just kept talking and talking and talking. But it's like he was setting up straw men and basically kind of telling everybody at the table, this is how you're thinking about it. It's like, hey, no, man, I agree with what you're saying. Yes, I've been hard on Trump, but I'm giving him a chance when he does the right thing. Hey, I'm going to say he's doing the right thing. But if you're trying to have a conversation with someone, you got to kind of let them talk every once in a while. This guy just kept going and going. It's like, hey, okay, just stop. I'll kind of, I don't know. It just seems like kind of getting back to the theme that I had on last week's show. If we want to be better able to convince people to our side, as I said, number one, don't think you're going to convert people on the spot. That's not going to happen. But number two, you should be a good listener. There's too many people out there who are just more willing to talk and not willing to listen. Or when you're talking and they're trying to interrupt, they're just thinking about what they're about to say. They're not listening to anything you're saying. It's like, no, listen to what the other person's saying. Ask questions. That's how you really find out where someone's coming from. And that's how you can have a meaningful discussion with someone, and you can pull them over to your side eventually. But just planting those seeds, planting in people's minds. Look, the Federal Reserve owns our national debt more than any other country, more than China and Japan combined. Hell, even adding Ireland. So the top 3 countries that own our debt, add all 3 of them together, and the Federal Reserve still owns more debt. That is how crazy that is. So we need to get the Federal Reserve the hell out of the way. Here's Donald Trump. Oh, draining the swamp? No, it's like I just said earlier several times on this podcast already. It's more of the same. We're not going to get out of this crisis until the Federal Reserve gets the hell out of the way. Stop meddling. Stop printing money. Stop keeping interest rates at 0. Let interest rates function in a free market. Man, that would be a nice change, wouldn't it? We should go back to a gold standard ideally. That's how we can really change a lot of things in this country. Ever since we got off the gold standard in 1971, is there any coincidence that government debt has skyrocketed? No. The gold standard is what shackled the government. It's what prevented us from getting in all these wars all over the world. Well, now it doesn't matter. We just print money. And this printed money is seen as the same as the equivalent as savings. That's how John Maynard Keynes viewed printed money. And this country is ran by a bunch of Keynesians. Donald Trump, he's a Keynesian. Donald Trump admitted, hey, he's a low interest rate guy. He's in real estate. They love low interest rates. You know, the one reason and how a lot of people in real estate end up getting rich, because it makes sense. Because with real estate, you use leverage to your advantage. If you could borrow a lot of money at low interest rates, man, you can really make a killing. As long as you have property that's going to drastically go up in value over the years. Because if you try to, basically engage in a lot of leverage in the stock market, that's a lot more risky than buying real estate. The fluctuations in the stock market, you could get killed. With real estate, hey, using leverage to your advantage, say you don't have too much money to your name, but if you can leverage that, by tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in owning property, that is how these guys do it. So anyway, guys, I wanted to keep this episode short. Yeah, so probably talk about Republican tax policy probably next week's show unless something else comes up. But yeah, just recently, we had that shooting in that church, that one creepy, oh my gosh, I can't believe all these massive shootings we've had. We had Vegas like a month ago. It's just one thing after another. This world is literally getting out of control. And yeah, we just had the 5th of November. I watched V for Vendetta like I do every 5th of November. And every time I watch that, even as my perspective slowly changes on things, or it evolves, it doesn't really change, but my perspective just keeps getting broader and broader. I'm pulling new things in. So you can watch a movie like that. This has so much truth built into it, into the dialogue. You just think about that as you're watching the movie, or like current events, things that are happening. And it's just, wow. It's such a powerful, powerful movie. That's why it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Just how you can get so much truth out of it. And you can relate so much of it to real life. And I think that's how you appeal to people. That's how you bring people over to our side too. Speak English to them. Don't speak some foreign language to them. Break it down. Simplify it. This stuff isn't that hard. Economics is actually really easy. But man, you go to college and they're trying to teach it. You're like, well, what the hell are you talking about? A multiplier effect? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. No wonder why most people are just retarded when it comes to economics. Wait, can I say retarded, or is that... Oh, that's politically incorrect. Oh, well, I don't give a crap, okay? This politically incorrect nonsense. Okay, don't even get me started. You know what, guys? I'm going to end the show right here. I thank you guys so much for listening. You can catch up on old episodes. Just go to justinmooreshow.com. More is spelled M-O-H-R. And also, look, if you buy your Amazon goods through my website, my little link there on my website, I get a small commission back. Or here's what I want you guys to do too. Man, I've been part of Audible for over a year now. Books that I can't get to on my Kindle, I've bought other books through Audible. Actually, I'm like a gold member. Gold member, that makes me think of Austin Powers. I'm a gold member, so basically I'm getting 12 credits all at one time, and I've been able to get 12 books throughout the year for $11.48 a book. You think about, usually audiobooks are about $20. No, when you get a subscription through Audible, you can start off, and if you go through my link and you just try out their trial, see if it's right for you. If you do that, you get, I think it's 2 months, and you get 2 books. Then after that, they'll charge you $15 a month. But you can change the plan. So basically, if you end up just getting all your credits at one time like I do, you get it cheaper. Or if you want it the cheapest it can get, you can do it for, you get 24 credits a year. So 24 books. Any book you want, it's just 1 credit. And it comes out to like $9 and I don't know what it is, 60 cents, something like that. So it's actually really cheap. It's like the equivalent of buying the book on Kindle, but you're getting the audio version, which for some books, it's better to have the audio version than the Kindle version. Just depends what you're doing. Other books, it's like, oh crap, I got to be able to read this when there's so many numbers and stuff going on. But I love Audible. It is such a fantastic way. It's improved my efficiency in my life. For you guys out there, I can tell you guys are all about trying to learn as much as you possibly can. Make Audible a part of your life. Just start with that 2-month trial with 2 free books. You just click through the Amazon link on my website, find Audible on Amazon. Then you just type it in there, find one of the little links within the website, and you do that, it's going to change. It's going to improve your life. I guarantee it. It's improved mine. So anyway, guys, I thank you guys so much for being here. I will talk with all you guys next week, and I'm looking forward to it. This is Justin Moore, signing off.